Hey guys, DC here, coming at you with another video. Pokemon Home has finally gotten updated with Pokemon Legends ZA support. This is the longest I think we've ever gone without a Pokemon game being compatible with Pokemon Home, but nevertheless, Pokemon Legends ZA finally is compatible with Pokemon Home. You could finally move all your Pokemon, all your shinies over from ZA to Pokemon Home to transfer them into other games, except you can't do that this time around. Something that was announced when Pokemon Legends ZA home support was first being teased was that for whatever reason, you would not be able to transfer your Pokemon from Pokemon Legends ZA into any other Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. This felt very odd to me at the time of announcement because that was kind of the whole point of Pokemon Home. Pokemon Home was this system that gave you the ability to transfer your Pokemon to any Pokemon game without any restrictions. You could transfer a Pikachu to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. You could take that same Pikachu and within a moment's notice put it into Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet or any other Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. But for some reason, Pokemon Legends ZA broke that cycle. For some reason, Pokemon Legends ZA locks your Pokemon to Pokemon Legends ZA, which is something rather odd and strange because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of Pokemon Home in the first place. But apparently, the rumors were saying, the reports were indicating that this was because of a change in the code of Pokemon Legends ZA, that they're coding Pokemon differently, so it's not possible to transfer them to ZA to Arceus, or from ZA to Scarlet and Violet, and so on and so on. Well, that was what we thought at least. So this data miner who goes by the name of Kurt at Kaphodix on Twitter went on with a few posts here explaining that apparently that's not the case with Pokemon Legends ZA. I'll throw it up on screen for those of you who want to read it in depth, but essentially, there's nothing preventing Pokemon Legends ZA Pokemon from going into other Pokemon games from a code standpoint, from a data standpoint. It's literally just that for some reason, the Pokemon Company decided to disable this feature that has been in every Pokemon game since the Nintendo Switch era of Pokemon started. He says here at the last tweet that the home data format is 1000% capable of handling backwards transfers via the home tracker. They just simply decided to not allow it. Conditionally sanitizing values was done for Sword and Shield. Just pick safe defaults if the game can't support a given property. It's very simple, but for some reason, this is something that they decided not to do. He goes on to speculate, saying that he's thinking that maybe Pokemon Legends ZA was originally supposed to be a Switch 2 exclusive. I said that Pikachu could be transferred to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but I forgot that it can be transferred to home but not transferred back. So maybe it's a situation that for some reason they want to make Switch 2 Pokemon exclusive to Switch 2 Pokemon games and you can't bring them back to the Switch 1 Pokemon games. But again, that kind of seems pointless and kind of seems to defeat the whole point of Pokemon Home. And I wasn't really active on this channel when this was all going down, but Pokemon Home inherently was Game Freak and the Pokemon Company's quote unquote solution to Dexit. If you guys don't know what Dexit is, back when Pokemon Sword and Shield was announced and they had their second trailer during E3 of 2019, remember E3? That was a fun time of the year, but that's long gone. When they had their E3 event showcasing Sword and Shield, they confirmed that for the first time ever in the Pokemon franchise, you cannot transfer all your Pokemon to your Pokemon game. It was something that at the time caused a big uproar within the Pokemon community, myself included. I remember I was so upset and disappointed that they were kind of just arbitrarily getting rid of one of the key aspects of this franchise, which is gotta catch them all. Like, the whole point of Pokemon is it's a creature collection game, and it's always been a staple that you could transfer all your Pokemon forward with you no matter what adventure you're going on. But for some reason this time around we're not doing that, and Pokemon Home was the solution for that. And when Pokemon Home came out, I remember at first I boycotted it, but eventually I bit the bullet, got Pokemon Home, and transferred all my Pokemon from Pokemon Bake onto the Nintendo Switch. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that you could transfer your Pokemon between generations, between games. Just because you had a Pokemon that was caught in Scarlet and Violet doesn't mean it can't be taken back to Pokemon Legends Arceus or to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl or Sword and Shield. It could be taken into whatever game you want because it basically saves the data for that Pokemon per game and just basically flags it based on which game it's going to, which was such an ingenious feature of Pokemon Home. But now they're disabling that feature, which again makes absolutely no sense. This defeats the entire purpose of what Pokemon Home is meant to do. Why do we have this application? Why do we have this service that you're you're paying, remember, you're paying a yearly subscription to use Pokemon Home. So we have this service that is promising you that you can transfer your Pokemon between any of your Nintendo Switch Pokemon games, but then arbitrarily for one of the games, they decide we can't do that anymore. It makes absolutely no sense. And again, it defeats the entire purpose of Pokemon Home. If Kurt here is correct, and maybe it is because for Switch 2, they want your Pokemon to be exclusive to Switch 2, my question is why? Like, why have it that if I catch a Pikachu in Winds and Waves, hypothetically speaking, and I then want to transfer it into, let's just say, Pokemon Sword and Shield for whatever reason, I want to get Gigantamax Pikachu, and I want to make this Winds and Waves Gen 10 Pikachu turn into a Gigantamax Pikachu, I can't do so anymore. It just doesn't make any sense, and really, once again, defeats the whole purpose of this service. We are paying $18, $19 a year to use this service in order to not only store our Pokemon, but to transfer them into any game that we want, and you're basically limiting our ability to do so arbitrarily, it would seem. Like, there is no logical explanation. There is no reason that we know of, at least, that makes any logical sense as to why they're doing this. It could be like Kurt is saying that for some reason the Nintendo Switch 2 can't have Pokemon go from the Switch 2 Pokemon to Nintendo Switch Pokemon, but if that's the case, can't you just work around that and work to fix that? I feel like at the end of the day, what it is that they just don't want to spend the money to figure out whatever the problem is that we can't transfer a Pokemon from ZA to any of the other Nintendo Switch Pokemon games. But at the end of the day, we're paying money to use this service, and essentially you're telling us we can't use the service as intended without really saying why or giving a logical explanation. That's the one thing that I feel like a lot of these companies fail at, is a lot of these companies, they do stuff that are anti-consumer, right? And then they don't tell the consumer why they're doing this. And in some cases like this, maybe there is a completely legitimate reason as to why we can't transfer our Pokemon from ZA to Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. Maybe it's a reason that would make a lot of sense if we knew it. But if that's the case, why not come out ahead of this and say, hey, Pokemon fans, this is President Ishihara. We apologize for the inconvenience of not being able to transfer your Pokemon from ZA to Sword and Shield or any of the other Nintendo Switch Pokemon games, but the reason we can't do it is because of X, Y, and Z, and we apologize for the inconvenience. This will not be a problem going forward with any of these Switch 2 era Pokemon games, but unfortunately, we can't do anything with the Switch era Pokemon games because of this technical limitation that we have. If he came out and said that, or anyone from the Pokemon company came out and said that, I wouldn't be making this video. People wouldn't be in an uproar because of this. I've seen videos saying don't lock out your Pokemon on accident with Pokemon Legends ZA and Pokemon Home, because this is something that you might not know about, honestly, because it's a little like asterisks with, you know, text at the bottom of a page telling you this. Like, if you don't see that and you transfer, let's just say, a really hyper rare Pokemon, let's just say you have, I have this actually in my Pokemon Home, I have a shiny Genesect from the Japanese only event to promote the last 5th generation movie that had Mega Mewtwo Y debut in it. If I, let's say, perchance decided to put that into Pokemon Legends ZA and then I wanted to put it back into Scarlet and Violet, and I learned that, oh, I just locked it to Pokemon Legends ZA, I'd be pretty annoyed, right? I'd be annoyed that I can't use this Pokemon in whatever game I want to use it in, because again, that is the entire purpose, that is the entire use case for Pokemon Home, and you're basically saying, hey, we're sorry, but for Pokemon Legends ZA, you can't use Pokemon Home as intended, and you're not saying why. Anyways, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. What do you guys think about the fact that Pokemon Legends ZA locks your Pokemon Home Pokemon to that game? You can't transfer a Pikachu that's been in the Kalos region in ZA to any other Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. Do you agree with me that that kind of defeats the entire purpose of what Pokemon Home is? Pokemon Home was this great solution to a problem that Game Freak and the Pokemon Company created, where you can transfer your Pokemon to any game you want at any given time, regardless of the generation, and now you're undoing that with Pokemon Legends ZA. We'll see what happens with Winds and Waves when that game comes out, but imagine if you can't transfer your Pokemon from Winds and Waves to ZA. At that point, we'll have a big problem on our hands, but hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge, but we'll see what happens over the next year or so. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from Trainer DC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.